Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levi, your co-host, Shaq. We're going to be talking UFC 229, Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Conor McGregor. And Shaq, it's going down this Saturday, the biggest fight of 2018. The King is back.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen him, man. This guy, we need this guy in the fight game. You know, he brings the excitement back to the cage. You know, he makes things personal with his opponents. And now we got the two best lightweights in the world ready to go to battle.
Man, you know, it's so interesting because back in April when he threw that dolly at the bus, I was convinced that's it, dude. Like, I was like, look, man, I know he's rich as fuck. I know he's powerful. I know he's, set all these records, done all these things, the Floyd Mayweather fight, but I was like, I don't care who you are. You can't throw a dolly at a bus window, make people bleed and do the whole bit and get away with it. And guess what, Shaq? He fucking got away with it, man, and here we are. It's about to go down Saturday night.
I guess they weren't lying when they say the king can do whatever he wants.
They weren't lying at all, man, because I'm honestly curious what other things he could get away with and come back. But the bottom line is, for our selfish entertainment reasons, we get to see him fight, which I'm very excited about. And as far as Khabib Nurmagomedov, one doesn't simply go 26-0 in professional MMA. And that's exactly what this guy has done, Shaq.
Yeah, Khabib has a dominant skill in this game that not too many people have. You know, that top control and that pressure and just that wrestling. You know, I kind of rate him higher than some Division I wrestlers. I mean, I think his wrestling is that good. And now he's facing the best striker to hit the sport in years, too. So this is one of those truly striker versus grappler matchups.
It really is, man. You got a belt on the line, not just any belt. The belt that represents the most talent-stacked division in the entire UFC. And the winner's going to walk away the undisputed champ. I know my boy El Cucuy Ferguson might have something to say about that. He's got his own issues to worry about this weekend with the former champion Pettis. But Nurmagomedov and Conor McGregor, I mean, first of all, Conor wins this fight. Not only does he become a two-time lightweight champion, he becomes a three-time UFC champion. And Khabib Nurmagomedov, he'll be able to do something that Conor hasn't done, which is defend the belt. Now, I know Conor gets a lot of heat for not defending the belt, but still, winning two belts in two different weight classes, and not to mention the competition that he beat to get those belts, I mean, I feel like people don't give Jose Aldo the respect he deserves anymore because he got stopped in 13 seconds. They forget this is the dude that was undefeated for like 10 years. This is the dude that, barely even lost a round in the UFC, was smoking everyone. Conor goes in there, puts him out with the first punch. So I feel like Conor actually is a little bit underrated as a fighter just because his trash talking mesmerizes people. But now, the talking's over, man, because when you fight Khabib Nurmagomedov, I don't think there's going to be any room for talking, Shaq.
Yeah, I mean, Khabib likes to talk to his opponents. I remember him telling Michael Johnson, Michael, you must give up. I deserve this. So Khabib's a one-of-a-kind, man. I'm so excited for this fight. And, I see a lot of people trying to downplay this as if it's not that big of a fight. This is one of the greatest matchups in the sport's history, so I'm super excited.
Yeah, me too. And, normally we do these cards and, we start from the bottom, work our way to the top, but we're not going to make the fans wait for this main event breakdown. This is the reason you guys tune in. I know you'd rather hear about Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov than Gray Maynard, than Ryan LaFleur, than Lena Landsberg and Alan Patrick. So we'll spare you guys. We'll talk about all those fights at the end. Let's get right down to the main event of the evening, my man, because we got Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's minus 165. The comeback on Conor McGregor is plus 155. Shaq, it's going down this Saturday. You got the 26-0 Khabib Nurmagomedov trying to put his undefeated record on the line, trying to make the first defense of his UFC title. He's undefeated in reality. He's undefeated in the UFC. But now he's taking on the single most devastating one-punch knockout artist he's ever faced in Conor the Notorious McGregor, a guy who basically defies all the odds on the reg. So now I got to know, man, are you taking Khabib to make his record 27-0? Or are you going with Conor McGregor off the 2-year layoff to come back here and reclaim his lightweight title?
Yeah, man. Khabib, 26-0. Beating everyone he's been in there with. Definitely hasn't beaten the resume of Conor McGregor, considering McGregor's beaten, Holloway, Poirier, Aldo, Alvarez, Diaz. The list goes on. And, I feel like, a lot of this whole the knock on McGregor is when he gets tired, he always gives up. And, I kind of disagree with that statement because, in two of his submission losses, I mean, they were in the first round. So, I mean, he definitely wasn't tired, and he definitely didn't give up after when he was tired. I mean, those are quick submissions. And the one time, he did get tired and give up, I mean, let's not talk about the big weight inflation that he had. He was a featherweight at the time. He was consistently fighting at 145 pounds. And then he goes up to 170 pounds to fight a Diaz who has a history of fights at 170 pounds. So, I mean, of course, he's going to get tired with that extra weight. It was a mistake on his part. He felt like he was invincible and he learned his lesson. And props to him for coming back and still fighting at 170 in the rematch and, getting his job done. So, this whole he gets tired a lot thing. I mean, he got tired at a weight class that he shouldn't be fighting at. And for Khabib, I mean, that guy is a dominant when it comes to the clinch, when it comes to the wrestling. I think Khabib, he's willing to eat a couple shots to come in. And, I don't want to discredit the opponents he's been fighting, but, there is a mental difference with those guys and Conor McGregor. I mean, it's just plain and simple. I like Rafael Dos Anjos. I like Edson Barbosa, but, those guys came out and they were on the defensive right away. Conor McGregor's a guy that likes to come out there and take that center right away and get in your face. And, the way Khabib Nurmagomedov pulls back from exchanges, and I mean, this is dating back to when he was fighting Kamal Shalorus and Gleison Tibau. The way he pulls back from some of those exchanges is could be very detrimental to him in this fight. Now, my big question is, I do have a lot of concerns about what McGregor's been doing since the Mayweather fight. I mean, when you get $100 million plus, man, I mean, you do $100+ million stuff, and you put $100 million plus things in your nose. So, I do have I do have some concerns about what he's been doing outside the cage. And I mean, look, I don't I don't partake in those type of activities, but I know a cokehead when I see one. So, and I truly believe that, he was partying a little bit. So, whether that has a positive effect on him, because some people it does make invincible, but, in a grueling 25-minute fight, we'll see how it affects him. But as far as how they match up, I think Khabib Nurmagomedov cannot stand with McGregor for any serious amount of time out in space. I think the way he pulls back from those exchanges is gonna leave him very unconscious. I mean, we're talking about a guy that, I mean, we saw what he did to Eddie Alvarez, and one would counter me with it's Eddie Alvarez, but yeah, Eddie Alvarez has touched a belt in every single promotion he's been in, and at the time, I mean, who puts Eddie Alvarez down? I mean, you know how hard it is to put Eddie Alvarez down. McGregor went out there and made it look real easy. So, this whole him hitting the fatigue state, I don't think it's going to come as quickly as people think. If Khabib's chin lasts, like I said, his fatigue state was at 170 pounds, a weight class he has no business being at. But, I truly do think that if Khabib's chin can last, I think that if he does, get that tight waist position, and if he does, get on top of him and start landing that ground and pound, I do think Conor McGregor will give up. It's a 50-50 fight. I just think it's tough, man. I'll take Khabib. I think he will get dropped a couple times, but I think at some point he will get on top, and I feel like he will drain McGregor. But, I got tons of respect for McGregor, but I do, those things outside the cage do worry me a bit, and I'll take Khabib by unanimous decision.
So he's going with Khabib to extend his record to 27-0, and that's like a boxing record, Shaq. We talk about these guys like Jimmy Rivera and Cody Stamann, and we like to, we like to be funny about how they have boxing records, but Khabib actually legit has a boxing record. I mean, 27-0. That's something you'd see on a Showtime preview before a Friday or Saturday night boxing match. So, man, much respect to him for getting to that point. Now, as far as this matchup's concerned, man, there's so many ways to describe it. There's so many possibilities. I feel like people think, if Khabib takes him down one time, it's over. If Conor hits him with the left hand one time, it's over. And I completely disagree with both those points, man. I don't think that Khabib taking him down one time spells the end of the fight at all. I mean, first of all, Chad Mendes took him down 4 times and still got knocked out. Chad Mendes is a D1 wrestler. You know, I know people are going to talk about, oh, Chad Mendes was coming off the couch. Yeah, well, fucking Rory McDonald tore Conor McGregor's ACL on that world tour. So, you know, it is what it is, man. They both had their issues to deal with. Not like Conor was getting ready for a wrestler anyways. But bottom line is, the one time he did fight a D1 wrestler, he got taken down 4 times and he knocked him out. The reason I bring that up is because he can be taken down more than once and, not hit that fatigue state. Because with Conor, the biggest issue with him is after he has so much output and he's throwing these bombs at you, because he hits fucking hard, man. I mean, you see the way he's launching these guys that have never been launched. So after you hit a man so many times and he doesn't go down, I understand why you hit that fatigue state, because Nate Diaz has a legendary chin. Aside from that Josh Thompson fluke, Nate Diaz has never been knocked out in his life, man. So, you should see some of those shots he was hitting Nate Diaz with. Normal men, normal people cannot walk through those shots that Nate Diaz walked through. Khabib Nurmagomedov cannot walk through those shots that Nate Diaz walked through. So, as far as this matchup's concerned, Khabib's been closing the distance by running at these guys with a barrage of punches. You know how I always like to say, when Khabib likes to turn up, he turns up. Well, not only does he charge at dudes with these punches, but he also start throwing the flying knees and basically try to back you up against that fence. And once you're up against that fence, that's when he starts to chain the takedowns together. Now, in the process of closing the distance, that's where Conor's going to have his opening for that straight left hand. Because, for example, go back and watch the Eddie Alvarez fight. They kind of stared at each other for about a minute. They're feinting a little bit, a couple front kicks, no big deal. But about a minute in, as soon as Eddie Alvarez decides, okay, now I'm going to close the distance on this guy, that's when he got launched, 20 feet across that octagon. So I want everyone to go back and watch that first time when he got launched, because that was the first time he decided to commit to close the distance. And the way he did close the distance was very similar to how Khabib Nurmagomedov closes the distance, chin straight up in the air, running in there, barrage of overhands, overhand right, left hook, try to close that distance. He does that on Conor McGregor, he's getting knocked out. So what I think Khabib Nurmagomedov should probably do here, we circle on the outside a little bit, keep our hands up in the air, and instead of barraging with those punches, he should just start trying to shoot for low singles. Look, he might not get the first couple, but if he's eventually able to reap that leg and get Conor down, the fight's not going to be over there. But he can start to land, the big ground and pound. Because, I don't know if you recall that fight with Michael Johnson, but, dude, he was swinging those shots from the heavens. That ground and pound was devastating. But one thing I want to know is, I'm curious why these guys don't go unconscious to his ground and pound, because, for example, Edson Barboza, that's a guy, I've seen him get dropped by a jab before. I've seen him get knocked out by Jamie Varner, who's had 30 concussions before. But Khabib Nurmagomedov lands 300 punches on his chin, and the guy gets up in the final round and gives him a hug and smiles. So I'm curious if Khabib is purposely torturing these guys, or if he simply doesn't really have that one-punch knockout power. Obviously, it's not to the extent of McGregor. Let's not even sit here and bullshit. But just because you don't have McGregor's power doesn't mean you can't put someone down. And I know he put down Thiago Tavares. I know he put down Kamal Shalarus and choked him out. But he's never truly knocked someone out. He doesn't have that true knockout power. So for him to put Conor away, he needs to ground and pound him to the point where Conor does get to that fatigue state. And I think that after the first takedown, I actually do think that Conor will be able to get back up. I think it's going to take a couple of takedowns for Conor to get into that fatigue state. And if Khabib's able to get him there, it's going to be an absolute mauling because, look, no one has the top control of Khabib Nurmagomedov. People talk about his takedowns. People talk about his ground and pound. But for me, the most impressive part of his game is his top control. He's one of these guys that when he's on top, we can't describe why. We don't know the rhyme or the reason, but people can't get this guy off of them. Like, it's ridiculous. His top control is absolutely insane. It drains your gas tank. Now, Conor McGregor's grappling is very underrated in my opinion. You remember that first fight with Nate Diaz at 170 pounds. Nate Diaz actually took him down with a single leg. Conor used a very nice X-guard sweep to get on top. As Conor would say, I swept him with ease. Now, Conor's not going to be able to pull off shit like that while he's fatigued. However, while he is fresh, the guy's no slouch on the mat. I mean, you remember when he took down Max Holloway, that nice knee slice pass he used, which is very similar to a pass that my boy Damian Maia uses, even Gunnar Nelson uses. So Conor's actually got some good techniques on the mat. It's just that's not his go-to at all. And when he hits that fatigue state, there's not going to be any counter grappling here on Conor's part. Now, people like to talk about how, but he shot for a takedown against Nate Diaz and let himself get choked out. I think you guys need to understand that the shots that Nate survived to get to that point are shots that other people simply can't eat. I am not under the impression that Khabib Nurmagomedov can eat those same shots that Nate Diaz ate and then come back and take him down and choke him out. I think for Khabib, he's got to be diving on legs from the jump. And hey, nothing wrong with that. That's the smart thing to do against Conor McGregor. Make him work. Make him sprawl. Make him get back up from bottom. Make him separate from the clinch. Get that lactic acid going in those arms. That's what Khabib Nurmagomedov needs to do. And for Conor McGregor, he can't be rushing anything. I think as soon as the bell rings, he needs to take the center of the octagon, kind of like he did against Chad Mendes, but a little bit more careful, less carefree. Because against Chad Mendes, he's going out there. First strike he throws is a spinning back kick. You throw a spinning back kick on Khabib, it might land, but he also might turn that corner, take your back, and take you on a ride, on Dagestani Airlines to Suplex City. So you have to be super careful. But I do think he should take the center of that octagon. And I do think that the teeps could be effective if he pulls them back fast enough, try to drain that gas tank, try to throw straights to the body, and then go up to the top. Because Michael Johnson kind of had the right idea. It's just we know Michael Johnson can't bust a grade. Michael Johnson's a volume guy. Michael Johnson's a speed guy. Michael Johnson's a 45er. Michael Johnson doesn't have that one-punch knockout power. But Michael Johnson had the right idea for the first 2 minutes of the fight, which is, land the straights to the body, then try to come up top and try to stuff from there. Now, unfortunately for Michael Johnson, after 2 minutes of that fight, he was unable to continue. He's throwing way too much volume. He's gassing himself out. And eventually Khabib was able to get on top and land shots raining down from from the heavens, man. It was absolutely devastating. Now, in that second round, Michael Johnson actually was stuffing some takedowns, and then he was so overwhelmed by the pressure that he went for a guillotine of his own. I was like, wow, Michael. But Khabib gets to people like that. And with Conor McGregor, he has done uncharacteristic shit before when he's gassed out, like shoot for a takedown against Nate Diaz. But, I mean, look, that 1-2 that Nate Diaz landed on his chin, Conor didn't know where he was, and I don't think Khabib possesses that kind of power. So, back to this matchup between Conor and Khabib. Comes down to a lot of things. Comes down to how Khabib approaches the first couple of minutes. Because I think the first couple of minutes are crucial here, man. If he comes out here and tries to close the distance on Conor like he does against these other guys, I think he will take a canvas snap. But if he comes out here, no trading hands. Let's just dive on this low single. Let's push him up against the fence and just keep working and working and working. I do think he can win this fight. However, I have to make a pick. And I think when he closes the distance, I think that, it's easier said than done. I think that when you're training, you can try to change your ways. But when you're inside that octagon, those lights are on, the ref says go, I think you revert to your natural instincts. And I think that people fight the way they fight. And I think that when Khabib closes the distance on Conor McGregor, that's when he's going to get knocked out by Conor McGregor. So I am going to go with Conor via KO. But that being said, look, I understand and the possibilities of both guys winning this fight. I respect both athletes tremendously. And if Khabib is able to get past that left hand and not take it clean, hey, chances are he can come out here and absolutely maul Conor McGregor. But I just think that technically speaking, the way he closes the distance is going to leave that big opening. It just reminds me of the first minute of the Alvarez fight. Just go back and watch how Eddie closes that distance in that first minute. I think that's what's going to happen here. I'm going to go with Conor McGregor via knockout. Well, Shaq, now we got to talk about the co-main event because we got Tony El Cucuy Ferguson. He's minus 370. The comeback on Anthony Showtime Pettis is plus 310. So, man, Tony Ferguson, he beat Kevin Lee his last fight. Anthony Pettis beat Michael Chiesa. Now they're meeting each other. Very wide line. Who you got, bro?
Yeah, this is a great fight. Tony's coming back from that knee surgery. That knee surgery generally takes 8 months to a year. He's coming back in 5 months. But we do know Tony is kind of one of a kind when it comes to the mental game. And Anthony, I mean, I think Anthony's a talented striker. But that Chiesa fight, I don't want to discredit him, but I mean, Chiesa missed weight for the fight, if I'm correct. And to be honest, Chiesa will never touch that. Chiesa's in a different division now. Just put it that way.
Chiesa will what? You got to tell him.
Chiesa will never touch that top 10 in his life. But Anthony, I mean, he's a talented striker. Now, the reason that kind of makes this matchup interesting is because I do feel like Tony Ferguson mentally is as tough as they come. I mean, just listen to the guy talk. I mean, he's a Mexican lunatic, but I have been saying for a while, man, I do feel like his chin's declining. I mean, Kevin Lee dropped him with a jab. And, he takes a lot of damage each fight, man. And, I feel like this is the real type of damage. It's steady damage. I feel like in the past people have said other guys take a lot of damage. But, I think Tony's chin is really declining. It's just a matter of Anthony's tough enough, man. I feel like when the going gets tough, I mean, Anthony Pettis has consistently shown that he can't hang with the elite guys in the division. I mean, we saw what happened in that Poirier fight. We saw what happened when he wasn't having his way in the Edson fight. But what makes this matchup so interesting, Tony Ferguson really doesn't shoot like traditional double legs like how Poirier did or how Alvarez was shooting, or Rafael dos Anjos. I mean, he's more of a, dynamic type of guy. He just likes to create chaos. But, I wouldn't be shocked if Anthony caught him with a head kick or something, but, most likely Tony Ferguson, and he does draw blood on Anthony. I do feel like Anthony will slowly start to check out, not look for a way out, but he'll probably start to look for a way out. But, Anthony's got all the skills to knock Tony out. Like I said, I do feel like Tony's chin is declining, but he is getting up there in age. And this fight, I mean, he really has nothing to gain, from a rankings and title perspective, but I'll take Tony Ferguson by late stoppage.
Yeah, I feel like Anthony Pettis is a guy that should not be counted out just because of his experience, what he's done in the sport, who he's beat, and just his skill level overall. But as far as his matchup's concerned, even though I agree with you that Tony probably shouldn't have taken this fight, Shaq. You know what I mean? Like when these guys take these fights, when they're fighting down, sometimes weird shit happens, man, especially with a guy like Tony who is as vulnerable as he is. But, man, to go on the kind of win streak that he's on, he's 13-1 in the UFC, Shaq. People just don't put up numbers like that these days. So, much respect to El Cucuy and AP Anthony Pettis. I actually feel like, I know Michael Chiesa, he was wearing pineapples at the press conference, and, he gets mad if you talk about his mom. Like, the guy's he misses weight. He's not really much of a professional, but so what? He's still got some great wins on his record, and Anthony Pettis went out there and not just beat him, Shaq. He finished him in the second round. He made him quit. The one area that people had concern was, what happens if Chiesa gets on top? Well, Chiesa got on top and he got tapped out, So as far as this matchup is concerned, I think Tony Ferguson's on a completely different level than a Michael Chiesa. I mean, obviously, the numbers speak for themselves, right? But I just feel like Tony Ferguson performs on a different frequency. The issue with him is he does have some overconfidence in his chin, and I have seen scrubs like Lando Venata drop him 3 times. So, nothing's going to surprise me, man. This is MMA. But that being said, I feel like the place where Tony can win this fight is his pace, is his relentlessness, is the fact that he can push someone up against the fence. He can take him down to the ground. I know we haven't seen that much because he does like to brawl. But the guy is a smart guy. I know people think he's crazy, and he is crazy. He's kind of like an evil genius. He's kind of a lunatic. He's kind of a Mexican boogeyman, a former alcoholic. He quit drinking, by the way, Shaq. I don't know if I believe him, but that's what he said, right? But look, I just think that the guy's pace is too much for Anthony Pettis. But there are going to be openings there for Pettis to potentially land the high kick, to potentially catch a guillotine, something like that. So this is MMA. Nothing's going to surprise me. If AP comes out here and gets this upset, I'm not going to, my jaw's not going to drop one bit. It'll just be like, oh, wow, that was badass. But I have to go with Tony Ferguson here. I just think he's in a better place right now, and I think his pace will be too much for Anthony Pettis. I got Tony Ferguson via unanimous decision. Well, Shaq, this fight right here is going to be really good because we got Dominic the Devastator Reyes. He's minus 230. The comeback on O Vince St. Preux OSP is plus 190. So you going with the undefeated Reyes, or you think my boy O Vince is about to hand a first L here?
Man, I really like Reyes here. I think, I don't think Reyes is invincible or anything, but when I look at OSP lately, I see a flat-footed guy that likes to raise his chin in the air, and I feel like although Reyes really hasn't fought anybody, I see all the offensive potential there. I mean, the guy definitely hits hard. He definitely put Cannonier on his ass. And no one's done that to Jared Cannonier, at least on the feet. I mean, guys generally like to tip and run Cannonier. So, I think OSP, of course, has more experience, definitely seen way more of the sport than Dominic Reyes. But, I kind of think the line is warranted. I feel like OSP is getting old. I feel like his chin is declining. If he drags it into deep waters, we're definitely going to see what Reyes is made out of. But, historically, OSP's cardio, extended isn't the best either. So, but I honestly think Reyes is going to knock him out here probably early. I just think OSP is coming out with his hands down, chin up in the air. I mean, we saw his last fight, Pedro almost knocked him out there, but that was a bad fight IQ from Tyson Pedro. I mean, if Pedro would have kept striking there, he probably would have knocked him out. But Pedro's strength is in that, I guess, in his tie-up in his wrestling game. And the second he wobbles him, he starts trying to take him down. It's like, bro, he's a couple shots away from going out unconscious. And we saw him go out unconscious against Latifi as well. But I think OSP is going to come out here flat-footed, chin up in the air, and at some point early, I think Reyes will find the shot to put him down.
Man, I'm rooting for my boy O Vince. I hope he comes out here and hands Dominic his first L. And I like Dominic Reyes too. I mean, they call him the Devastator for a reason. The guy's nasty. I like how he strings together his combinations. I like how aggressive he is. I like his finishing instincts. And also, I liked how he was backing up against Cannonier and landed that beautiful uppercut that face planted him. So, Reyes has some techniques. It's just that he's never fought anybody before. He fought three snowflakes, and now he's fighting O Vince St. Preux. The issue with O Vince is that he's very unpredictable. Actually, you could say he's very predictable. The reason I say that is because if he's fighting a top 5 guy, he's going to lose. If he's fighting a non-top 5 guy, he's going to finish them. Well, currently, Dominic Reyes is a non-top 5 guy. However, OSP is the top 5 gatekeeper, so Reyes wins this fight, and he is a top 5 guy. So, man, it's a tough one for me to call because all the openings are there for Dominic Reyes. Like you said, O Vince comes out with that chin in the air. He's flat-footed, looking to land that big kick. He hits like a truck. Look, he lands on Reyes' chin, and Reyes will take a canvas snap as well. He's not invincible at all. We've seen him get clipped as well. And O Vince is definitely that kind of guy to hand a first L, especially if he gets on top. So that's not going to surprise me, but based off what I saw on the tape, I feel like, well, firstly, even if Reyes takes an L here, I feel like he's got a lot more potential than O Vince, and I feel like his finished product is going to be a higher-ranked fighter than O Vince, no matter what. So, he might have to take his first L here and come back. However, I just feel like he's a little bit faster than O Vince. I think he's more athletic. I think he's bigger. I think he's fresher. I think he's got less damage on that meter. So, as much as it pains me to say, I think Dominic Reyes is going to come out here and knock out O Vince St. Preux in the first round. I hope I'm wrong. I hope this is first L time for Reyes, but it's probably not. So I'm going to go with Reyes inside the distance. Heavyweight division. We got Alexander Volkov. He's minus 170. And Derek the Black Beast Lewis is plus 150. Now, Shaq, you know Volkov was trying to get my boy Black Beast to go to Russia and fight him?
Yeah, I mean, they were looking for a main event on that card, but Volkov should have known that Black Beast ain't allowed down there. But as far as the fight goes, I feel like the line could be a little closer. Black Beast does kind of get disrespected in the books at times. And some of it's kind of warranted. I mean, a lot of these fights he's losing, and then he comes out in that third round and pulls that K off, kind of lulls you to sleep. Kind of like a similar game plan to Woodley. Not saying that he's like Woodley, but he likes to back up into the fence and time a right hand as you're coming in. The things with the guys, the things with the guys that Black Beast has been fighting. No offense to those guys, but they're so hell bent on trying to take him down, using all that energy to take a 200 a guy that cuts the 265 down. They're trying to use all that energy to take him down. And no offense to Marcin Tybura, but Tybura couldn't bust a grape, man. The guy throws some of the softest teeps I've seen, and the guy couldn't even finish Andrei Arlovsky. You know what I'm saying? But Black Beast, tough guy. The win over Francis Ngannou, I felt like he won that fight because he threw 6 punches and Francis threw 3 punches. I think it was one of those scenarios. But I got the ultimate respect for a guy like Black Beast. In the Shamil fight, he loses the first 3 rounds clear as day, and then he comes out and turns up. When Black Beast comes forward and he starts turning up, it's a scary thing when that guy's in your face, man. I mean, that guy can put anyone's lights out. And I hear he's got USADA approved steroids for this fight. So, people could be in for a surprise. Now, with Volkov, also kind of similar to Black Beast, both of these guys kind of like to play little games in there. They like to, fall back a little bit. They're both very good at coming from behind, just put it that way. I feel like Volkov's a little more wise to winning a decision, especially in a 3-round fight against Black Beast, who likes to concede that, the center of the cage. Because, Volkov, he'll fight boring if he has to, man. I don't think he's going to make as much mistakes, as these other guys do. I feel like Volkov will throw devastating teeps to Derek's body. I feel like he can, keep his range, keep his distance, stay calm. But to say that Volkov doesn't get hit, it's that would be a lie, man. The guy definitely has his hands down at times, but he's relying on that range. You got to take a big step in to touch a 6'7" guy on the chin. But I think the difference here is going to be the IQ. I feel like all those some of the guys that Black Beast fought could have won a 3-round decision against them, but they just weren't calm and poised enough. I feel like Volkov is. I feel like the way he played that Verdum fight was absolutely perfect. I think he's going to come out here. I definitely expect him to take a smack or two at some point, and it definitely could get hairy. And I wouldn't be shocked if Black Beast caught him at all. Volkov does have the tendency to get caught with uppercuts a lot, but I think Volkov's going to come out here, get to a big lead those first 2 rounds. I think he's going to stay in the center, back up, keep his range, teep him to the body, occasional high kick, jab, uppercut. And Black Beast is just going to fall behind on points. And I feel like the fight's going to be a little lackluster. I see Black Beast kind of coming back in the 3rd round, but I think it's going to be a little bit too late. And I think Volkov will edge out a decision.
Shaq, I agree with you, man. I think that Alexander Volkov's going to get off to a 2-0 lead as well. However, I think in that 3rd round, he's going to throw another teep. It's going to get caught. He's going to get taken down. And that's when Black Beast is going to get that 3rd round ground and pound TKO. I know people are talking about how, Volkov looked so good against Werdum. He was on his back the entire 1st round and survived. Werdum couldn't even pass his guard. You're 100% correct. And let's just go ahead and say Volkov is better than Derek Lewis everywhere. The striking technique, the grappling, I'd say, the cardio, the size, everything. He's a better fighter than Derek Lewis. But the thing that Derek's got going for him, besides the fact that he's a total winner in the UFC, he's 11-3 in the UFC. The guy wins a lot. People are going to discredit those wins, but I wouldn't discredit those wins, man. He just beat the number 1 contender, Francis Ngannou, and someone's going to be like, oh, how could you even bring up that fight? It was so terrible. Hey, guys, entertainment value doesn't mean shit when we're picking winners. That being said, when you land 3 strikes and your opponent lands 0 strikes, 3 is more than 0. 3 wins the fight. 3-0. Hey, he won 3-0. You know what I'm saying? What can I say? He won 3-0 against one of the most devastating knockout artists that we've seen in the heavyweight division in a very long time. I don't know if people recall, Francis Ngannou wasn't just decapitating people. Against Overeem, some of us thought Overeem died. And it turns out he was fine. He came back. But, that's the kind of power that Ngannou had. And then Black Beast goes out there and he makes Ngannou stare at him for 3 rounds. Ngannou feared Black Beast. Ngannou got outstruck by Black Beast. And I think in this fight, Volkov's going to get off to that big lead. He's going to be putting on the performance of his career. We're going to be talking about how he's the next guy in line for the heavyweight champion, Daniel Cormier. And in that 3rd round, the teep is going to get caught. Black Beast is going to get on top. And one thing you don't come back from is that Black Beast ground and pound, man. You know, kind of like we talk about how Khabib rains those punches from the heavens. Well, the difference here is that when Black Beast rains his punches, people go out cold. And I see it being a third round TKO after a complete domination. It sucks for people that bet on Volkov because they're going to be like, are you fucking serious? Like, the guy's going to be putting on the performance of his career, and then he's going to get stopped in the third round. So I'm going to go with Derek Lewis, the Black Beast, third round TKO. Now, kicking off the main card, we got a women's bout between Felice Herrig, she's minus 120. The comeback on Michelle Waterson, the karate hottie, is plus 100. Shaq, we've seen a lot of back and forth action on this fight. The consensus is that this is going to be a 50-50 fight that could go either way. People are already saying it's going to be a split decision. And based on their last few fights, it might be, but I got to know, man, is that your opinion as well?
Not necessarily. You know, I feel like Felice has definitely made some improvement since that Paige Van Zandt debacle down there. I mean, she took her time off, and I mean, she came back a completely different fighter. And I feel like, you know, some fighters, they turn a corner at some point in their career. And, you know, Karate Hottie, you know, she's a tough girl. She's a nice girl. You know, like, she's got the typical Jackson kick to the knee. But, you know, I feel like she is small for the weight class. I feel like she's, you know, an atomweight. You know, she is an atomweight. She's moving up from strawweight. Not to mention, she got taken down by Angela Magana. She almost got armbarred by Angela Magana.
That really happened, folks.
And, you know, I just think Felice is the superior fighter here. You know, I don't think it's going to be close. I think Felice has turned a corner, made strides each fight. You know, I feel like she put a clinic on, you know, I know Kylan Curran isn't the best, and it's easy to say things in hindsight, but let's just put it this way. Going into the fight, Felice was the underdog to Kylan Curran, and I mean, I know not who else finished Kylan Curran in the first round like that. So, and in less than 2 minutes. And then the fight with Alexa Grasso, you know, the number one prospect at the time from Mexico, and I mean, Felice put an absolute clinic on her, boxed her up, took her down, you know, the whole bit, and then also beat another top prospect at the time. Like I said, it's easy to say things in hindsight. Of course, now we're going to say Justin Keesh ain't shit, but at the time, Justin Keesh was supposed to break Felice. Felice was also the underdog in that fight. Felice is a girl that consistently gets disrespected in the books time in and time out. So, you know, it doesn't surprise me that the line's close, but I think she's going to dominate this fight. You know, I think Waterson, you know, I don't want to say she's mentally weak, but I just feel like she kind of, you know, when things get tough, I feel like she kind of, you know, gives up in fights. You know, I just feel like she doesn't have the size. You know, I feel like she won that last fight. It's because Courtney Casey can't stuff a takedown to save her life. I mean, Courtney Casey, I mean, if you've seen that Aguilar fight, I mean, all you got to do is just grab that leg out and Courtney Casey's getting taken down. You know, I don't see that happening in Felice at all. You know, that fight with Felice and Carolina let me know that Felice is, you know, here to stay. I feel like she can compete with the, you know, the top 6, 7 in the division, and I don't feel like Waterson can. But as far as how they match up, you know, I think Felice can get that body lock, take her down whenever she wants, physically superior fighter. And I think she also showed her mental toughness there because, I mean, we've seen Carolina, you know, completely break girls with some of those shots that she was hitting Felice with, and Felice was hanging in there, you know, came back every time, you know, stuffed the head and arm throws. She likes to take that back off the head and arm throws. So, you know, I could see a submission here, to be honest, but most likely it'll be a unanimous decision for Felice. And Felice's decisions aren't really close besides the Casey fight. They're really one-sided, so I got Felice.
I feel like Michelle Waterson's got 3 things going for her. She's got a nice sidekick, a nice head and arm throw, and a nice ass. And that's about the extent of it, Shaq, because, you know, when I watch these fights and Angela Magana is giving her trouble, it just kind of lets me know the level she's on. And, you know, the last fight, hey, she went out there and beat a top 10 fighter in Courtney Casey, but you go back and you rewatch that fight, and it's like she didn't really go out there and beat Courtney Casey, Shaq. You know, I don't often see chicks get wobbled, but my girl Michelle was getting wobbled by almost every skull touch, and it's not like Courtney Casey's known for putting these girls down, man. So I was kind of taken aback by Michelle's chin. I think her chin might be on the decline. I mean, I know Rose dropped her with a head kick. Hey, you know, we'll give a pass for that, chin on chin, plus it's the champ. But I don't like how my girl Michelle reacts to getting hit. And one thing about Felice, you know, I was never high on her in the past, but I got to say, my girl Felice has made some improvements, man. I mean, firstly, she's always been very physically strong, but I feel like that fight against Grasso when she went out there and put on that clinic against Grasso. I feel like that was a turning point for Felice's mentality, man. I feel like now she's starting to believe that, she can hang with these top girls. And even that fight against Carolina where she got outstruck the first 2 rounds, and she got outstruck the entire fight, but she did land a nice punch in that 3rd round, which wobbled Carolina. But at least she showed that, hey, look, I can go toe-to-toe with a top 3 girl. I can go toe-to-toe with a top 5 girl. And I just don't think that Michelle Waterson can. So I think for Felice, obviously, look, she's the bigger fighter, more physical. We already know that. But what she's got to look out for is that sidekick and that head and arm throw. It's the same story for every single person that fights Michelle Waterson. The issue with Courtney Casey was that, Courtney Casey's actually better than mostly all these girls she fights, but she's kind of a dummy and she loves to flop to her back, so she'll cost herself fights that she should have won. I don't think Felice is that type, man. I don't think Felice is going to flop to her back. I think, if anything, if Michelle tries to go for that head and arm throw, I feel like Felice can actually reverse that, suplex her, get on top, and from there, I'm curious if Michelle can get back up from the feet. Can get back up on the feet. And Michelle does have a nice armbar off her back. Felice has to be worried about that. Look, Felice also can't get out-volumed here because for the first, minute or 2, Michelle is going to be running around that cage, trying to land those inside leg kicks, a jab or 2. But once she slows down Michelle Waterson, that's when I think Felice will be able to take over. And I think that Felice also wins a unanimous decision, but potentially a submission. So I'm going to go with Felice Herrick here. Well, Shaq, on to the prelims now, and we got Sergio Pettis. He's minus 160. The comeback on Jussier Formiga is plus 140. So you going with the current number 1 contender, Sergio Pettis, or are you going with the former consensus number 1 flyweight, Jussier Formiga?
Yeah, Jussier has kind of stumbled at this spot in his career consistently. He gets on a win streak and then he fights, the top guys in the division, and he generally loses. But that was at his former Camp Novo now. Now he's training at ATT. So we'll see how he does this time. Sergio, we already know the deal with Sergio. He's probably the best striker in the flyweight division. But we also know what Sergio's problem is. I know he got past Benavidez, but he went to his back again and he got taken down and, tied up again. So, he almost let Benavidez creep back in that fight. But, sometimes, Sergio likes to throw lazy kicks and they get caught. I mean, in that Moreno fight, he threw some lazy kicks, got taken down, got his back taken. And I know Jussier was watching that on tape, getting very excited. And, Jussier is one of these underrated guys, man. He's got a very low output. He only lands about, I think, less than 1.5 strikes a minute. But, he doesn't take that much damage either. He's very smart. He's very calculated. He's a good, solid Brazilian weasel. But so Sergio's takedown defense has got to be on point. I don't want to discredit the win over Benavidez, but, Benavidez hadn't fought for 2 years. Between you and me, at this stage, I know Benavidez has more of a name value, but at this stage, I think Formiga definitely is the tougher opponent. But Benavidez got touched early in that fight. He hadn't fought in 2 years, got his chin touched while his chin was warm, got dropped. And since then, after that, I definitely feel like Sergio was landing the better strikes, but Benavidez was landing more volume and definitely pushing the pace. But it was more sloppy, wild, all over the place. No offense to Benavidez. But as far as this fight goes, Sergio's definitely going to have to be on his A game because Formiga's going to come up here with a serious tie-up game and a stall game. I think he's going to try to win 2 of the 3 rounds and just barely eke it out. And I think Sergio's going to try to do the same as well. But I feel like Sergio's going to win this fight just for after the separations from the clinch. I think he's going to, kind of not make Formiga look silly, but just land the better strikes, slip and rip. But to not be worried about Sergio's wrestling and clinch game, I'd be a fool. I mean, the guy he went for a guillotine against John Moraga, and he got body-locked by John Moraga. He got his back taken by Moreno in 2 of the rounds. And, the Benavidez fight and the Henry fight, I'm not going to shame him in the Henry fight because Henry is the flyweight champ and Henry's a bull. But Sergio's definitely got to fix that hole in his game. I still think he'll be able to work around it enough to win a decision, though.
Man, I feel like this is such a tough stylistic matchup for Sergio. I feel like he probably should have turned this fight down, and because he just beat Joseph Benavidez. So, but Man, I feel like Henry Cejudo winning the title probably fucked up a lot of plans for Sergio, because if DJ would have won, Sergio might have been the next number one contender to get that title shot. But now, he's in an interesting situation. He's got to take this fight with Formiga, and Formiga is the worst stylistic matchup for Pettis on the entire roster, in my opinion. Because for example, you go back, you watch a fight like the Brandon Moreno fight, and Brandon Moreno takes his back in that first round, and Brandon Moreno's got some submission skills, but you get a guy like Formiga taking your back in that first round, and firstly, he's going to keep the position. Let's just get that out the way. But he's also good enough to where he could potentially be the guy that submits Sergio Pettis with a rear naked choke, with a Mata Leon. I really do feel like, man, Sergio's got to be on his A game in this fight, because Sergio loves to give up those takedowns early, and then he'll come back. Hey, the improvements he made his last fight, because going into that last fight, I was like, dude, I got zero proof this guy can get up off his back, and he got taken down one time, then he got back up, then he stuffed the next 13 or 14 takedown attempts. So that to me is a huge sign of improvement. The issue here with a guy like Formiga is he takes you down that one time and he takes your back. Then what? You know what I'm saying? Then what? Then what are you going to do? Then you're going to lose the fucking round. So I see a scenario where Formiga comes out here, takes his back that first round. Then after that, Sergio could outstrike him the next two. There's always that possibility. But then there's the situation where Formiga is able to backpack him for all 3 rounds and potentially get the submission. So this is actually a tougher fight for me to call. I actually think the line should be closer to a pick'em for this one. I could be wrong, because there is a huge advantage standing for Sergio, no doubt about it. He is the best striker in that division. But man, for all these Nova Uniao guys, Formiga still has something left in the tank. He's not one of these guys that gets hit once and then starts backing into the fence and goes on autopilot like my boy Henan the Baron. So, Formiga still got something left in the tank. I think the line should be closer. So I'm actually going with the dog here, man. I love Sergio, but I'm going to go with Formiga here. I think that this is a good stylistic matchup for him to get a big upset. And Sergio will be back. Well, Shaq, now we got to talk about the widest line on the entire card, because we got Vicente Luque. He's minus 850. The comeback on Jalen Turner is plus 575. Now, Shaq, there's no doubt about it. In terms of experience, I mean, Luque has got it in spades. But I will say something about this kid Turner. It's not like he's some, small, unathletic white guy coming off the couch. I mean, Jalen Turner's got some attributes. He's 6'3". He's naturally athletic. He can knock people out. So I think that he's got skills for the future. It's just, is the 23-year-old ready to step up and fight a guy like Vicente Luque right now? And Shaq, I got to mention, he's moving up a weight class for this too.
Yeah, man. Rafael and Michael Bisping are very high on this Jalen Turner guy. He's helped them out in both of their training camps. And, Bisping and RDA are very high on this kid, Jalen Turner. But, unfortunately, he has to get welcomed to the UFC the hard way. Now, we have seen in the past where fights line like this can be a little sketchy. Last week we almost saw Zaleski get choked out by or the last event, we almost saw Zaleski get choked out by that newcomer that was also fighting up a weight class. And, sometimes things can get a little sketch. So I do think Vicente is going to play it a little bit safer here. I could see the 6'3" kid creating some matchup problems a little bit. But ultimately, I think Vicente will get his hand raised, whether it's by knockout or decision.
Yeah, I feel you, Shaq. I mean, he's this big of a favorite for a reason. And this kid, Jalen Turner, I'm not going to count him out just because of his physical capabilities, man. I mean, he's a 6'3", very athletic and scary guy. And I feel like when he does reach his potential, he's definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with. But we also can't ignore the fact he has been stopped twice via strikes. And we know Luque is a serious knockout artist. So if Jalen has to come in here and take a quick little canvas nap, I think he'll be back better than ever. And I actually think moving up to 70 is a good idea for a kid that big, growing into his frame. So I'm going to go with Vicente Luque via left hook knockout, but, if he does play it a little bit safe just because it is kind of a weird matchup, that wouldn't surprise me either, but I think he's the rightful favorite. Well, next up, we got a matchup between Aspen Latch, he's minus 165, the comeback on Tanya Evander is plus 145. You going with the old school or the new school, Shaq?
Man, it's a tough fight because, it's they kind of have the similar skill set. They like to take girls down and, pound him out. Tanya, I mean, she was pretty dominant in that Invicta division. You know, she lost to Yana, but then she won the rematch in pretty one-sided fashion. She dominated Aldana very easily. So I mean, she's done her job, but historically, in UFC fights, she hasn't won. She tried out for the Ultimate Fighter against Raquel Pennington and lost, and then she lost to Cyborg, of course, which is no shame in that. Cyborg is the greatest female fighter of all time. But it's a tough fight because I feel like Aspen's very talented. I mean, if you watch her whole career is on UFC Fight Pass. I mean, when she gets on top, these girls generally don't get up. Her best win is probably over Landsberg. And I mean, say whatever you want about Landsberg, but finishing Landsberg's a big deal in my eyes. She got on top of her and she smashed her head in, and that's not the first time she's done that. I mean, she's done that at least 5 or 6 times throughout her career. The thing with Aspen is, I mean, she's young, and sometimes when these young prospects fight, the old vet, sometimes, it goes their way, but a lot of times they they get taught a lesson, and I feel like Tanya could possibly be that girl to get her a lesson. I'm not convinced Aspen's going to be able to get Tanya down like she does all these other opponents. I feel like she's fought mostly snowflakes like Bobby Cooper and a bunch of soccer moms I've never heard of, but she did finish Lena Landsberg, and she beat Sajara Eubanks, which is a 125 round 3-round decision. A 3-round decision. It was an ugly fight. They stood a lot, but Aspen, she moves forward constantly. She puts her head down. She's a big girl that struggles to make the weight. So on fight night, this chick's gonna be coming real heavy. But I don't know if she can get Tanya down, and I don't know if Tanya can get her down. I feel like their stand-up is about equal too. I feel like Tanya's got a decent right hand, and Tanya's very lucky. My girl Ketlin tore her ACL because that would have got ugly down there in Sao Paulo. But it's a tough fight, a 50-50 fight. So I'm gonna go with Tanya because she's the dog. She's more experienced. I feel like she's been through the more adversity in his career, but it wouldn't shock me at all. She is 37 years old. She is getting up there, but I think there is value on Tanya Evinger in this spot. I'm not saying Aspen Ladd's a quitter or anything, but she really hasn't seen really anything made. She hasn't tasted the blood in her mouth yet. So I'll take Tanya for an upset, but it's a 50-50 fight in my opinion. I'll just go with the dog.
I feel you, Shaq, man. I feel like Aspen Ladd hasn't really proven shit. What she's proven to me is that, she likes cheeseburgers more than she likes fighting. She's missed weight and pulled out of more fights than she's actually competed in. So, that to me, it just tells me a lot right off the bat. And not to mention, you actually saw that picture of her that's been going around. My girl Aspen's on steroids for this fight, so I'm not convinced that she's going to make weight for this one either. But bottom line, let's say she does make it to the cage and her and Tanya Evinger do throw down. You could favor the youth, and Aspen, when she does get on top, she has seemed to pound these girls out, but I feel like Tanya Evinger's got way too much experience for that. Tanya Evinger made it to the 4th round with Cyborg. Evinger went out there, finished Kunitskaya, she beat Aldana, so she's actually already been in there with some legit fighters and gotten her arm raised, and she knows what this is like. It's all about, does she still want it? Does she still want to be in there? Does she still want to compete at the highest level? And if she does, I think she'll hand Aspen Ladd her first career defeat. So I'm going to go with Tanya Evinger for the upset as well. Shaq, Alan Patrick versus Scott Holtzman. Alan Patrick, he's minus 260. The comeback on Scott Holtzman is plus 220. You think Patrick's going to be able to bore the crowd one more time to a unanimous decision, or you think there's some value in the dog here?
Yeah, I definitely think Patrick will. If one consistent thing in Scott Holtzman's fights is, he consistently goes to his back, and if you're fighting a guy like Alan Patrick who is hell-bent on tying those legs up and hitting those jiu-jitsu trips, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to be getting 30-27. Just ask Demir and Stevie Ray how it was fighting Alan Patrick. The guy is going to swing wild. He's going to lunge in, and he's going to look for the clinch and get you down and win each round. So I think there's going to be no different here. I could actually see a finish as well by submission, but I think most likely it'll be 30-27. I think he'll eat a couple smacks along the way like he does every fight. But Alan knows where his skills lie. He knows how to execute his game plan very well, and I think he's got a good opponent to do that against. Holtzman, he can't stay off his back, so I got Alan Patrick.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're both very physical guys. They're both big for the weight class. Alan Patrick, obviously, we know what he brings to the table. He's like the Brazilian John Fitch. But one thing about him, though, he does have some capoeira technique, standing, very athletic guy, does backflips at the weigh-ins. Look, he's probably going to body lock my boy Scotty and, put him on his back for 3 straight rounds, grind out that 30-27. Standing, it could get sketchy because Scott Holtzman, he's a big guy, he's an athletic guy, he hits hard, former hockey player, he's tough, he's rugged. So, if Alan Patrick doesn't try to use his normal game plan, then it could get sketchier than it needs to, but I think he will. I think he's going to body lock him, take him down, and I think he's going to get that 30-27. So, Alan Patrick is my pick here. And next up, we got Yana Kunitskaya. She's minus 220. The comeback on Lena Landsberg is plus 180. Both these chicks fought Cyborg. Both of them have some kind of an accomplishment in that fight, and I'll mention what that is. Landsberg made it to the second round, and Yana Kunitskaya got a takedown on Cyborg. So, hey, those are little moral victories. Now they face each other. You going with the elbow queen, or are you going with my girl Yana?
Man, I feel like this fight should be lined a little closer. I think Landsberg's a girl that, she is up, like similar to Tanya. She's getting up there in age. She's 37, I think she is. But she's got one elite skill, and that's the clinch, man. I mean, this girl is a monster in that clinch. And the fight with Lucy Pudilova, where her face was drooping off. I went back and watched it. No, I'm not saying that Landsberg convincingly won or anything, but the round that was up for question was the first round, and Lena's she's so good in the clinch that, Lucy was tagging her up on the feet, but her clinch is so strong that she was able to make it questionable enough for all three judges to give her that round and let her steal it, And, at first I was under the impression it was a complete robbery, but then when I rewatched it, it was like, man, I can't believe that last minute 30 in the clinch was enough for her to steal that round. It's crazy. I think Lena's an expert in the clinch, with the elbows and just the overall clinch control. She was, dominating Aspen in the clinch that first round, but then eventually Aspen hit that level change. And, when you get a big girl like Aspen on top of you, Aspen likes to eat a lot of food, bro. So, it's tough when Aspen gets on top of you. But, and then, her last fight, I mean, she kind of killed the books her last fight. Everyone and their mom was on Gina Mazzani. Gina was supposed to be the hot prospect, and, they all forgot that she got finished in the first round to Sarah McMahon. But, Lena came out there and put a clinch tie-up clinic on her. Yana, I feel like she is a little bit overrated for this line. She fought, she's got wins over Cindy Dandois, who, Jesus Christ. She also beat Yanin Wu, who I could also say Jesus Christ too as well. She got her ass beat by Gina Mazzani. But then, in Invicta, she pulled off that armbar against Tanya Evinger, and, it was a nice armbar, but, she did get taken down very easily before that. And then, the second Evinger fight, I mean, she got completely dominated in, and, she got finished. And then, her fight with the Hawaiian Raquel Paluli, who was like 6-5, I thought it was, I don't want to say low level, but, I really wasn't impressed. I felt she got taken down with 3 head and arm throws against a 6-5 girl who, quite frankly, really didn't want to be in there, in my opinion. The striking was somewhat nice, but, that girl's a snowflake, man. I do think, when Landsberg separates from the clinch that, she is a little prone to getting cracked on the chin, but she's a tough girl, and she's hell-bent on getting you back in that clinch. And, I mean, I think Yana's clinch and wrestling game is very suspect unless, she has been putting in that work with Ray Sefo at Extreme Couture. I could see a case where, she can fall behind on points, in the clinch. But, I feel like she can regain those points from the separations, even though she lands a teep to the body, But I think this fight's going to be really close, man. I don't think it's going to be the landslide victory that everyone thinks it's going to be for Yana. I think she's overrated. But I think it should honestly be, minus 150 Yana, maybe a little closer. I mean, what's she really done? She's beaten a bunch of 6-5 girls. I mean, at least Landsberg. I mean, if you guys go back and watch that Pudilova fight, it's not the robbery that you think it is, So, I'll take Yana just by a slight split decision, close back and forth fight. Like I said, I think Lena's got a solid style to, weasel out decisions. I mean, she's hell bent in that clinch, but I think Yana's overrated. But let's see if she makes some improvements. I know she's been in Vegas a lot, so let's see. But I'll take Yana by split decision.
Yeah, I feel like Yana's biggest issue is when she gets taken down off her back. Sometimes she seems rather clueless, but one thing she does have going for her is she's huge for the weight class. She's super physical. When chicks get hit by that power, they don't react normally because they've never been hit by a girl that hits that hard. Now, I can't say that about Lena Landsberg because she got her eye closed by Cyborg, which is the hardest hitter in women's MMA history. So, at least Lena has that going for her, but I'm not sure how much more damage she can take, man, because you look at the Cyborg fight, she got one of her eyes completely closed. You look at the Lucy Pudilova fights, those were absolute wars. You look at the Aspen Ladd fight, she got her face pounded in. So I actually think that Lena Landsberg's damage meter is it's getting up there, man. Not to mention, I wouldn't be surprised if she's had a couple plastic surgeries on that face, because, I mean, there's always so many times you can damage that pretty face, Shaq, and I think that in this spot versus Yana, I think that Lena's simply not going to do enough to win the fight. Even though Yana's super green and she's got a lot of room to improve, especially on the mat, like I mentioned, what she does have going for her is that she is a killer standing. She's got very nice spins, good technique with the 1-2s, and more power than average for that division. So for that reason, I will go with Yana Kunitskaya to get the win. And I do think the line might be a bit wide, kind of like you mentioned. I kind of felt like the opener was more, was more accurate. The fact that it was a pick'em on the opener, but I understand why, the public's coming back on Kunitskaya because, like I said, she is the younger, fresher, bigger fighter, and she probably has the higher ceiling here. Lena's probably closer to retirement, but it opened a pick'em with a lean towards Landsberg. So this odds maker, he might know something. You know what I'm saying? And then maybe this is going to be Lena Landsberg's shot to get this upset here because it opened favoring her. So I wouldn't be surprised. But close fight. I'm going to lean with Yana just because of the size and the physicality. Now, next up in the lightweight division, this is very interesting, Shaq. We got Nick Lentz, he's minus 230. The comeback on Gray Maynard is plus 190. Now, a couple years ago, it would have been this exact line, except it would have been flipped. It would have been Gray Maynard as the minus 230 favorite and Nick Lentz as the plus 190 dog. But as you know, times have changed. So what I got to know now, man, is you think Nick Lentz is going to get this win here over the former number one contender, Gray Maynard?
Yeah, Nick Lentz, he's a solid guy. I mean, both of these guys have been around for, God knows how long. I think Lentz has actually been fighting pro longer than Gray, but, Gray's accomplished a lot more in his career. But lately, Lentz, he's just been win-lose, win-lose. He does have that win over Will Brooks where he did break Will Brooks. But, the guy's quietly has a decent UFC record, I can't. What is it, like 12-7 or something like that? I mean, the guy he gets his job done a lot. Now Gray, on the other hand, I feel like he's beat a couple snowflakes lately. He beat Teru. When they got in there, you could tell Gray was a lot bigger, and we all know Teru's one of the more mentally weak fighters there is. And also Lentz is going to be there for the duration of the 15 minutes. I mean, the finish Lentz. I mean, it takes a lot, and not to mention, Lentz does have that good guillotine, but that guillotine could be a little detrimental here because we know Gray will seal off that top position. And if he doesn't get the guillotine, it could play out either ways. The judges could look at it like, oh, he was threatening with that guillotine, or they could look at it as he's on bottom and he's losing the round. So, that guillotine could play a big factor in this fight. But I see Lentz getting the better of the stand-up exchanges. I feel like Gray's still a stiff. I feel like he's just had a couple good matchups with, complete bums like Teru Ishihara and Fernando Bruno, just to get a couple wins. Not to mention the Ryan Hall fight. He's so upset that Ryan Hall is flopping to his back. And it was horrendous, but, you got to do something about it, bro. Gray, you're a Division I wrestler, bro. Hop in his guard and, you'll probably outsize him, bro. But Graves hits that autopilot sometimes, and he kind of really doesn't know what he's doing and really doesn't know where he is. So I'm gonna take Lentz here. Will it be close? I could possibly see it, but I think ultimately he'll get his hand raised just by landing the more harder shots and just doing the overall damage. But that guillotine kind of does worry me if he can't get the tap out, because Gray might be able to stall out the rounds. But I'll take Nick Lentz.
Such an interesting fight, man. Just because, for the reason I mentioned, that a couple years ago the line would have been flipped, and it might have even been wider, man. A couple years ago it might have been Gray Maynard -3 to -400 against a guy like Nick Lentz. But times have changed, and you can't ignore the fact that Gray Maynard is a shell of himself and that he's not the same guy he once was, and not even close, man. I mean, in this guy's prime, it's funny because he's only got one career KO, but he knocked down Frankie Edgar like 100 times, so he does hit kind of hard. I mean, let's just put it this way. You get hit on the chin clean by Gray Maynard, it's not going to be a pleasant feeling, and not to mention his D1 wrestling. But Nick Lentz is also a D1 wrestler, and one thing I got to say about Nick Lentz is since he moved up to 55, because we know Dolce messed up his body, the first couple were a little shaky, but I feel like he's starting to get his groove back. The only guys he's been losing to are David Timur and Islam Makhachev, who are two of the top prospects at 155 pounds. And the Islam fight was a bit of a domination, but he still had a very nice guillotine attempt in that fight. But the David Timur fight, I thought that was a great fight. David Timur has some great weasel tactics, some very nice eye pokes. He was able to get Lentz off his game. I'm not convinced Gray Maynard can do that. I also am not convinced Gray Maynard, is going to be able to eat these shots fine. Not that Nick Lentz is some KO artist, because he absolutely is not a KO artist, but he's at a point where he's just a more solid guy than Gray Maynard right now. Gray, he went out there, he beat Teruto Ishihara, which I didn't think he was going to be able to do. Because I thought Gray was done to the point where literally, you could you could flick a paper ball at his chin and he goes out cold. But it turns out that wasn't the case, and it didn't seem like Teru landed shit either. And obviously we know, where Teru is from, they're not really known for their wrestling, right? And Nick Lentz is a D1 wrestler, so I do think that Nick Lentz can stuff here. But I also think that the guillotine will be a big weapon. Guillotining a guy like Gray Maynard sounds like, yeah, right, you're not going to guillotine Gray Maynard, and in his prime you probably won't. But here, I think he has diminished to the point where he could get guillotined. I also think he could get caught with some shots, man. I mean, that left hook that rocked Will Brooks and made him panic shoot, I don't see why that wouldn't rock Gray Maynard either. I mean, just because he beat Fernando Bruno and Teruto Ishihara does not mean the guy is back. His next birthday, he's going to be 40 years old. So I just think he had a great run. I wish the line was a little better. I'm not trying to lay -230 on a guy like Nick Lentz, but if it was a little bit closer, I would take Nick Lentz from a betting perspective. But since it's not, I will just take him as a pick. And I think Nick Lentz is going to come out here and defeat Gray Maynard. I wish I could say upset Gray Maynard, because a couple of years ago it would have been a huge upset. But now he is the rightful favorite, and I will take him here to win this fight. Now, Shaq, last but not least, the curtain jerker. And it's interesting because this fight has had so much line movement. We got Ryan LaFleur, he's -135. The comeback on Tony Martin is +115. Now, I want to say something real quick. Ryan Flair opened as a -265 favorite. Tony Martin opened as a +185 dog. It's currently -135 LaFleur with a +115 comeback on Tony Martin. So I got to know, Shaq, do you agree with all this line movement, or do you think people are underestimating Ryan LaFleur a little bit?
Yeah, it's a tough fight. LaFleur's definitely getting up there in age, and Tony definitely looked good in his 170-pound debut. And historically, guys moving up a weight classes, they generally go on at least a 2 to 3 fight win streak. I mean, that when they move up weight classes, they generally win their first couple fights. LaFleur, it's like every one of their moms on Tony Martin right now, and I understand why. That performance against Nakamura was great. I mean, he looked great. From the opening bell to the finishing bell, it was the one time he didn't plateau out. Generally in most of his fights, he's been kind of mentally weak in spots, and we've always said he's a guy with endless potential at 155, but maybe this weight class, this moving weight classes is what he needed. But a guy like LaFleur, I can never count out, man. Like how people are counting him out. I am gonna pick Tony Martin just because I think he's the younger, fresher, and like I said, I do think this weight class changes what he probably needed. I mean, how many guys have we seen move up weight classes and their careers just completely turn around, man? It's crazy. But You know, LaFleur's a guy who, it's not exciting, it's not pretty, but the guy gets his job done a lot. He's got a solid left kick to the body and to the head, and he just knows how to win. He knows how to eke out, these in between positions where, a lot of guys fold. I mean, the guy's got his fundamentals down pat, and he just knows how to win. He's not going to quit. He's going to be there for the 15 minutes. And the guy, I do think, is a little mentally tougher than Tony. I feel like at 155, Tony's shown time in and time out that, mentally, he has mental lapses in there. But, we'll see how he does at 170. I'm going to take Tony Martin by a close decision, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if LaFleur. I mean, we've seen cases where everyone and their mom's on one guy, and it turns out to go the other way, kind of like Miles Jerry versus Chad Mendez, for example, So he opened LaFleur this high. We'll see if it was for a reason, but, I'll take Tony Martin by a close decision.
I have to say this, though, Shaq. The improvement, or basically the way Tony Martin looked in his 170-pound debut compared to his last fight at 55 was night and day. It looked like this guy had life in the tank. It looked like, he had water in his body and brain. It just looked completely different. Just open up 2 Fight Pass windows, pull up the OAM fight, pull up the Keitaro Nakamura fight, and just look at the difference in the physicality, the approach, the confidence for Tony Martin. Now, of course, now that Tony Martin beat Keitaro Nakamura, people are acting like, oh, Keitaro's a jobber, Keitaro's this and that. Keitaro went life and death with Zaleski. Keitaro basically was a plus 800 dog against Tom Breeze and arguably won that fight. Keitaro finished Li Jingliang, so don't ever come at me with Keitaro some fucking jobber, because he's not. He's a very tough guy. And Tony Martin went out there and put on an absolute clinic against Keitaro. He shut him down in every aspect of the game. He beat him way easier than Zaleski did. Way easier than Tom Breeze did. It wasn't a back and forth fight like the Li Jingliang fight. It was a domination, 30-27, bell to bell. So I think that Tony Martin's got a lot of potential at 170 pounds. But this is a very tricky stylistic matchup for him, because we know exactly what Ryan LaFleur does. He's the 2018 boring grinder. He's the new John Fitch, he fucking wins a lot of fights, man. And, he's not going to finish a fight. He's not going to get a highlight reel knockout. Ryan LaFleur is not going to do anything exciting. But what he will do is get those takedowns and win fights. So, for that reason, hats off to a guy like Ryan LaFleur. Not to mention, he's got a win over Santiago Ponzinibbio. It might have been a long time ago. Maybe Santiago needed to take his first UFC L. But the facts are, Ryan LaFleur defeated Santiago Ponzinibbio one time. They were both inside the UFC's octagon, and Ryan LaFleur got that arm raised. Now,
it wasn't just a defeat. He beat his ass every round.
He dominated my boy Pons, who is about to take out Neil Magny real quick in Argentina. But back to this. What's so interesting about this Tony Martin matchup is that Tony's takedown defense isn't the best, and there's a reason for that. It's not because he doesn't know how to sprawl. It's not that he doesn't know how to get underhooks or push on the head or pull the leg out or wall walk or anything like that. He's super confident in his jiu-jitsu ability. He's one of those guys that wants to get taken down so he can get the Kimura sweep. He wants to get taken down so he can use a guillotine or a Darce attempt as a sweep and then get on top from there. He's one of those guys. So that's interesting to me in itself, because we know Tony is going to be taking him down. Ryan is going to be taking Tony down. So from there, is Tony's jiu-jitsu good enough to sweep a guy like Ryan LaFleur? Like I want to know that straight up. That's why I'm intrigued by this matchup. Now, standing, Ryan LaFleur, one thing I respect about him is that he knows his limitations. He's not coming out here trying to slug, even though, don't get me wrong, he did have a nice little slugfest with Mike Pierce, but, even though Mike Pierce is a solid guy, Mike Pierce isn't, you're not going to get knocked out by Mike Pierce most likely. He might have been knocked out a couple guys along the way that aren't with the UFC anymore, but anytime he had to step up, he would always lose a decision. We know the deal with my boy Mike Pierce. And, Ryan LaFleur stood toe-to-toe with Mike Pierce. So it's not like every single fight's been super boring. But in a fight like this, where I think that Tony does have the striking advantage in the sense that I think his 1-2s are crisper than Ryan LaFleur, I think he can pop the head back of a guy like Ryan LaFleur. I also think he's got a nice body kick too. Ryan LaFleur doesn't have a half-bad left kick either. So Ryan LaFleur standing, I don't think he's going to try to trade too many punches. I think he's just going to try to throw that kick and then close the distance from there. And then what happens after that, that's what I'm most intrigued about. Is he going to be able to hold down a guy like Tony Martin and stall him out? Or is he actually going to get swept by the jiu-jitsu of Tony Martin? You know what? This line movement is sketching me out. He opened minus 265. Now he's minus 135. That's over $1 in line movement, my man. And I think the odds maker might know something. He might have set it too high, but I think he might be onto something here. I'm going to go with Ryan LaFleur via a very boring decision. It's going to be another Ryan LaFleur fight. He's going to just edge it out with takedowns. But I don't think Tony Martin should be discouraged if he takes an L here because he looks great at 170, and I think that this is just it's a weird stylistic matchup for him, is all I got to say. And I disagree with Sean Shelby saying they're the two most boring fighters in the weight class. Maybe LaFleur is, but even though he's had some good ones like the Mike Pierce fight, but maybe LaFleur is the most boring guy. But Tony Martin, man, I mean, that Johnny Case fight was really good. Even all the fights he's lost were pretty exciting, so I don't think he's the most boring guy at all. I think my boy Sean Shelby should be maybe looking at a guy like Elias Theodoro as the most boring guy. But luckily, Elias is about to fight my boy, your boy. And that's such a good fight for Eric Anders because now he doesn't have to worry about, getting hit hard. Now all he has to worry about is Elias not accumulating volume on the air and winning a decision that way. But back to this. I'm going to go with Ryan LaFleur via a very boring decision. And joining us now on the Big Marley Minute is Big Marley himself. Kyle, you ready for the biggest fight of 2018 this Saturday?
As ready as you can get, man. I am pumped, ready to chase this $100,000 top prize on DraftKings, and my lineups are locked and loaded, so I'm hoping nothing changes.
Let's not even beat around the bush, man. Conor McGregor versus Khabib Nurmagomedov. It's either going to be 27-0 or 26-1. Which one's it going to be?
Man, I'm going to have to go ahead and be a Conor fan here, so I'm going to pick Conor to win this. He's going to be my pick. However, this is easily the best fight on the card. It's a no-brainer. If you're making multiple lineups, this is the fight you go all in on. So we'll say if you're making 10 lineups, ideally for me, the best route is just 5 and 5. Make 5 Conor, 5 Khabib. But if you're real heavy on either side, I think you should go a little bit heavier on them, maybe 7 and 3. But this fight needs to be in all 10 because the winner will be on the first place lineup unless something crazy happens. So this is the fight to target. I think it'd be a little bit too crazy to go all in on one of them and do like 10 Khabib, 0 Conor. I've heard people talking about that. I think that's just a little bit too wild for me. But to be honest, I think Khabib is probably the better play. A lot of people are going to be playing this card for the first time just because they're watching Conor McGregor and they want a chance at $100,000. So they're going to throw in Conor McGregor into their lineup. So I think he's going to be the highest owned fighter on the card, maybe even more than 50% owned. So I think Khabib might be the better play. Get your leverage over there. Go maybe 6-4 Khabib, something like that. But this is definitely the best fight to target. It's going to be over 100 points for the winner, and I can't wait to see how it plays out. But I'll be rooting for Conor unless my best lineup going into that fight has Khabib. I like my money more than any fighter, so I'll be rooting for me. But if I have no shot at first, I'll be rooting for Conor.
So, Tony Ferguson is taking on Anthony Pettis. Look, the line's wide for a reason, but I got to know, as a betting man, do you see any value in Anthony Pettis, or do you agree that, he should be that big of an underdog?
Honestly, if I had to bet this fight, I would rather take the Pettis side at these lines. At the 310 right now, that's just too high, I think, for Ferguson coming off a knee injury. We saw the same thing happen with Sergio Pettis in his last fight against a guy coming off a knee injury. Maybe he's lost a step or two, but Ferguson is definitely my pick to win this. And he's one of my favorite fighters on DraftKings as well. But I also like some Pettis in my lineups. So let's go back to the 10 lineups. If you're making 10, I would probably go 5 Ferguson and then maybe 1 Pettis as a hedge, something like that. But I do want some exposure to both these guys because Pettis is only 6.9K. That's so cheap. So if he can go out there and get a knockout, he's for sure going to be on the optimal lineup. Ferguson is hittable. We've seen that. Pettis can hit hard, kick hard. So, I mean, it's not impossible for him to get the knockout here. So he will be low owned, and he's very cheap. So that's what I like about him. But Ferguson's the pick, and he just puts up such a high pace that I think it's going to be hard for Pettis to deal with. And that high pace allows Ferguson to get a lot of points on DraftKings as well. So he's one of my favorite fighters on the card. I'm going to have a lot of them. But I don't think you should fade Pettis completely here. I'm looking forward to this fight. It's one of my favorite on the card.
So this heavyweight matchup between Volkov and the Black Beast, it's interesting because I got to know from a DraftKings perspective, do you fade a fight like this for the potential that it has very low output, or do you have a conviction that one of these guys is going to come out here and get that knockout?
No, I'm definitely leaning Volkov. I think he's the better fighter, has way more ways to win, but I can't fade this fight just because they're heavyweights. Either guy could get over 100 points here with the first round knockout. So going back to the 10 lineups, I think you got to have at least one of each guys, in my opinion, to go after that 100 plus points. But I would really like to know how owned these guys are going to be in that tournament, because if they're going to be chalky fighters, then I would rather fade it, because we've seen people afraid to engage with Lewis, and that ends in these boring decisions that are not high scoring on DraftKings. And that could happen again here. I just think Volkov's just the much better fighter, and I see him getting it done maybe later in the fight. So he's my pick. 10 lineups, I would probably do like 3 Volkov, 1 Lewis. I don't know, something like that. Unless you like Lewis to win, then I'd flip it. But I would want to be I would want to have this fight in like less than half my lineups. So I don't love it, but you got to have some investment to it if you're making multiple lineups, which I am.
So Felice Herrig's taking on Michelle Watterson, and this is one of those fights where the line keeps flipping back and forth. Do you think it's going to be as close as the line indicates, or do you favor a certain side?
I actually think the line's a little too close. I would favor Herrig a little bit more than that. So she's my pick here. I don't love this fight as much as the last 3 that we talked about at all. I think this is one of the worst fights to target on the card. If you're making 10 lineups, I think you could really fade the whole fight if you want to. But if you are going to use it in those 10 lineups, I would go Herrig only probably and just fade Watterson. Unless you think Watterson's going to win, then I would only use Watterson and fade Herrig. But this is not a fight I really want a lot of exposure to. I think it's going to be a somewhat low-scoring decision, and it could be a back-and-forth fight where maybe one of the fighters does well for 2 rounds, but they don't accrue a lot of points in that round that they lose. So I'm always worried about that in these close fights. I just think there's better fights to target on this card. Herrig's the pick.
Formiga is taking on Pettis. It's interesting because Formiga gets that back control for 3 straight rounds. You know those takedowns add up, Kyle, but Sergio Pettis, he's been clinical with the striking. Which way you going?
I'm going to lean the underdog here, actually. I won a nice bet on Sergio in his last fight, but I'm going to have to go against him here and hopefully win a nice bet on Formiga as the underdog. I think he has submission potential in any round, really, ideally the first 2. But that's where all the points come from. If he can get that first or second round submission, he's going to be on the winning lineup at his 7.6K price tag. So Formiga is one of my favorite underdogs this week. I like him a good bit, and I think Sergio's a decent fade here at 8,600. He's going to need a knockout to pay that off, I'm thinking, and I just don't see him getting a knockout, so I would rather fade him at that price. Go with the underdog. So let's go Juicy.
So Vicente Luque is taking on the newcomer Jalen Turner. Look, the line is super wide. He's a huge favorite. This kid Jalen Turner has got some athletic gifts, man. So I mean, are you willing to pay the big price tag for a guy like Vicente, or do you have a different opinion?
Yeah, I'm willing to pay it. Vicente's inside the distance line is like minus 270, I believe. And that's what we want in DraftKings. I think he is going to go out there and get a finish. So he could easily be the highest scoring fighter on the card. So I am okay with paying that price, and he's by far the biggest favorite on the card. So I think he's a decent cash play as well, even at that price. So going back to our 10 lineups, he's probably one of my favorite guys on the card. It's just who you're going to want more, him or Ferguson. It's hard to fit both. You might have to take a chance. I'm thinking Luque is going to be higher owned because of his odds value, but Ferguson's the bigger name. So I'm really not sure. I'm just gonna go pretty high on both of them. But I would also want maybe one lineup with Turner here because this kid looks pretty good. I mean, he's definitely not a scrub in my opinion. He could go out there and get a knockout, and that would end a lot of people's nights with Luque. So not only would you probably score highly in a knockout with Turner, but you would kill off maybe half the field with Luque lineups as well. So that's what I do like about Turner here. I wouldn't go like overly invested in a plus 575 underdog, but one out of those 10 lineups I think is an okay shot if you're trying to win that $100,000.
So Alan Patrick's taking on Scott Holtzman. I bet Alan Patrick's been a bit of a gem for the DraftKings world because the guy does add up all those takedowns. But now he's taking on a fellow physical athlete in Scott Holtzman. So I got to know, man, what's your opinion on this from a DraftKings perspective?
Yeah, Patrick's another one of those top guys I like, and I think he's a good pivot away from Ferguson and Luque, to be honest. Most people are going to go up there to those guys, so that leaves Patrick, who's going to be going for takedowns the whole fight, maybe under-owned, which that's what I like about him. 9,100, he could definitely pay that off even in a decision. He just doesn't strike enough, so he really needs a lot of takedowns to get the points. Like in his last fight, he had 9 takedowns, 6 advances. Those were almost all of his points because he only had 28 significant strikes. He's never had more than 40 significant strikes in his career, so you really need a lot of takedowns, and if he's unable to get a lot, then he's not going to pay that off. So it's really how you see this fight going. He's definitely my pick. I think he will get those takedowns, and I like him a good bit.
Last but not least, Ryan LaFleur is taking on Tony Martin. Heavy action has come in on Tony Martin. I mean, I recall seeing this guy at like plus 160 odds. Now he's plus 115. It could be a pick 'em by fight night. So you going with the grappling heavy attack of LaFleur, or do you think Tony Martin can catch him along the way?
So I think Tony Martin's one of the best underdogs on the card because of this value we get here. Like you mentioned, the line is real close now on the betting line, but on DraftKings, Tony Martin's 7,400 compared to LaFleur's 8,800. So he's $1,400 cheaper on an almost even betting line. You got to like Martin there. He's definitely my preferred play. But LaFleur is going to be maybe the least owned fighter on the entire card because of this lack of value in his salary, and he just does not put up exciting fights. So he's going to be like 5% owned. Maybe that's a tricky way to get that 100,000. Maybe throw him in a lineup just because nobody else is. Tony Martin's probably going to be pretty chalky because of all that value. So LaFleur's definitely the sneakier play here. If you're making one lineup, I would rather just go ahead and use him, shoot for that $100,000. But if you're making multiple lineups, Martin is the pick here.
Well, Kyle, that's why you are the DraftKings guy for Half the Battle. It's going down this Saturday. Conor McGregor, Khabib Nurmagomedov. The whole world will be watching, my friend. The fans can follow you at Big Marley 3. And Kyle, any message for them?
Now, let's win some money this weekend. I hope somebody hits that $100,000 win. If so, tweet me the picture on Twitter. I'll be selling my DraftKings write-up for only $7.99. That shit's like 30 pages. Gives you all the info you want. Check out my Twitter. Let's make some money.
Yeah, I hope someone wins the 100K too. I hope that someone's name is Daniel. You know what I'm saying, Kyle?
Dude, I would love that for you, man. That'd be great. Just send me $7.99 if so, all right?
All right, brother. I'll give you your cut. We'll speak soon, my man.
All right, bro. Take care. Good luck. Let's get it.
Let's get it. Well, Shaq, now we got to talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. So what is the fight to watch for UFC 229?
Yeah, my fight to watch is going to be Alexander Volkov versus Derek Lewis. Possibly a number one contender fight in the heavyweight division, along with if Blades beats Ngannou. But this probably is the number one contender fight. Both of these guys have been on crazy streaks. They both got interesting styles, and either someone's gonna be laid out stiff, or Alexander's gonna continue his run. They did have Alexander as the replacement for DC and Stipe, so they think very highly of this guy. But that's my fight to watch. I love watching Black Beast fights, even though they're boring, because when he does get that KO, I love when he does his victory dance.
Yeah, and hopefully if he gets this KO, he calls out my girl Ronda again. But my fight to watch is going to be Tony El Cucuy Ferguson versus Anthony Pettis. Aside from the main event, that is, you just know for a fact that it's going to be violence in there. No one's going to hump anyone's leg. The crowd's not going to be booing. We're not going to, we're not going to be taking a smoke break during Pettis versus Ferguson. So aside from the main event, El Cucuy versus Showtime is the fight to watch, Shaq. Well, Shaq, who is the fighter to watch for UFC 229?
Yeah, my fighter to watch is going to be Dominic Reyes. 205 is weak, man. They need some more players in the division. I mean, if he goes out here and he finishes OSP the way I think he's supposed to, I think he's in line for big fights right after that. I mean, 205, you can be rushed up very quick. So, Dominic Reyes is my fighter to watch. We're going to find out if he's this real prospect or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Cannot wait to find that out. And for me, the fighter to watch is the king, Conor the Notorious McGregor. Look, not only does he have a chance to come out here, reclaim his lightweight belt, be a three-time UFC world champion, but Shaq, he's got a chance to hand a guy his first defeat who, it's one thing to be 10 and 0, it's one thing to be 15, 26 and 0, Shaq. If Khabib wins this fight, he'll be 27 and 0. If Conor wins this fight, Khabib will be 26 and 1. This is such a big deal, and not to mention all the stuff that's been going on outside the cage, him throwing the dolly, his alleged coke habits, making over 100 mil from the Floyd Mayweather fight. We didn't even talk about the Floyd Mayweather fight. I mean, dude, how much better have his hands probably gotten since that point if he had to exclusively train boxing for that matchup? I'm sure his hands are looking even better for this. But he's going up against an unstoppable force in Khabib Nurmagomedov. It's just so good. It's must-see TV. Buy the pay-per-view. I cannot wait. So Conor McGregor is my fight to watch for those reasons, Shaq. Well, my man, it's going down this Saturday, UFC 229, Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Conor McGregor, the biggest fight of 2018. And, man, we're lucky to be alive at a time like this. Fights like this are happening. This is a dream matchup that we've wanted to see for years, and now we're going to see it, Shaq. It's only 2 days away, my man.
Definitely the greatest lightweight matchup of all time. I hope the entire card lives up. And, I feel like a lot of people are saying the undercard's not very good to leading up into a fight like this, but I disagree, man. I think we're going to get some good fights, so I'm excited.
Absolutely. Start to finish. I'm very excited to watch it, and I know you guys will be tuning in too. Thank you guys so much for listening to Half the Battle and supporting us. We really appreciate it. All our longtime fans and our new-time fans, we appreciate you all. Thank you very much. Follow me at Best Fight Picks. Follow Shaq at MMA Genius 05. Subscribe to Half the Battle on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Stitcher. Our Instagram is Best Fight Picks Official. Our website is bestfightpicks.com. And Shaq, until the next time, let's cash these bets.